All right, today we're going to be digging into a 2007 Honda 420 four-wheel drive four-wheeler. And we're going to pull this front end apart here. This is the left-hand side, but both left and right are going to be the same way of disassembling them. To replace the brake pads here, what you're going to do, we've got the wheel pulled off, 17 millimeter lug nuts to do that. Then we're going to pull this, we're actually going to pull this cover off here, which is a 10 millimeter. And it's just a plastic cover is all that is. And you might have to put an extension on there, but I've got a deep 10 here. Pull that side off and then do the same on this one. And try to do it in a way that you can still see. And then the cover is off. So that's the cover that guards that caliper, kind of halfway guards that boot as well. And then we've got a 12 millimeter socket to remove the actual caliper. I'm gonna put that on an impact here. One right above the caliper and then one right down below. Now sometimes you're gonna wanna do this. You're gonna wanna loosen your banjo bolt if you're pulling your caliper off here. This is the banjo bolt. It's what the brake fluid runs down through the banjo bolt here with a crush washer on either side. That's if you're gonna disassemble that caliper any farther than just simply this. Now I'm going to set this on the other side here so you can still see what we're doing. Now down below your A-arm here is a 17 millimeter nut. You can use a wrench or a socket. Sometimes it spins off easier if you use a socket with an impact, but sometimes you don't have enough room between the floor and here. So in this case, we're just going to use a wrench, and we've got a what they call a keeper down below there, and it's just basically a metal wire, and you straighten those out, and then you kind of tap them out the way that they slide in there. And I've already done these because sometimes they break off. It takes a little bit, so I did those before I started the video. That way I didn't take a lot of your time up. So we've got a cotter pin here and the nut there. We've got a cotter pin up top here on the top of the knuckle, and then back here on your tie rod we have a cotter pin as well. As soon as we get all those cotter pins off, take the wrench then and get your 17 millimeter nut on that's actually attached to this A-arm here, but it's below this knuckle, and loosen that up, and then do the same thing with your tie rod. Tie rod is sometimes going to spin when you're loosening that nut, so grab a 17 millimeter wrench, 17 millimeter socket, and use your impact driver or a socket wrench to loosen this up, holding the top of your tie rod with this 17 millimeter wrench here. As soon as we get all those out, now we're ready to actually take this knuckle off of here. If we're, say, replacing bearings or something like this, you're gonna have to dig this deep into it. So take a crowbar here, and I don't like, they make it's called a pickle fork, and you slide it in here like that. The problem with a pickle fork is you damage these boots here, and if these boots get damaged, that's gonna allow water and dirt and debris to get inside these, and it's gonna ruin your upper and lower ball joints a lot quicker. So I like to take a crowbar here, and when I get these, and these are already loosened up, and sometimes it doesn't take any amount of pressure at all to take these off, but what you do is just stick your crowbar in between the actual A-arm and the knuckle and put even just a little bit of pressure. Now the next thing you're going to want to do, you can tap either on the knuckle here or on the A-arm, one or the other, and you might have to do both depending on how hard it is, but you just put a little bit of pressure and then you tap on both of these. And sometimes you got to really tap on them, but this is all steel here, steel A-arm. You can damage the A-arm slightly, but you're not gonna bend it up. You're just gonna ding up your A-arm. So I always try to hit that knuckle. It's a solid piece of steel, and a lot of times that's what it takes to get these off of here. So do that on that side. Now we've got the bottom free, so you've got no pressure coming up with this, and you can take and do that same thing with the top here and just tap here and there on your A-arm. Sometimes it only takes one tap, sometimes it's a handful of them, but very often, I mean every time I can get I don't own a pickle fork because it just damages these boots so much. I've always been able to get it off with a crowbar and just a steel hammer. Okay, once we get these off, but the next thing we're gonna do is take a 7/8 impact, and we're gonna take this hub off of here. It's got a cotter pin as well. Make sure you remove that. Loosen the nut there, take it off, and then we can just slide the hub out. And there should be some grease in there. That's not a bad thing. You can just slide that out, And then we've got Allen bolts in here if we're gonna remove this guard. In this case, we don't need to remove this guard. And then obviously we still have your caliper here. Set it kind of on the back side. Well, tie rod's off there. You can do the same thing with a tie rod. I like to always tap on this knuckle when you're dealing with the tie rod, because these are a lot of times made of aluminum, the end of the tie rod, and so you can damage those. Sometimes you can tap on the end, but you never want to tap on the threaded part of the actual tie rod, or you're for sure going to damage those threads. You'll be replacing those ends. So if they do get stuck on there even a little bit more, you just tap down like that, get them off there like that. Now we've got your knuckle completely off. We can replace bearings, and I'll show you in a different video how to do that. You don't need to remove this guard to do that as well. So then the next thing, to take your drive shaft out, just take and pull on it a handful of times, and it'll pop right out of there. Pretty simple to do, and you've got your axle removed there. So that is, well, I guess I can show you here. Just to finish the video off, just remove your shock bolts here. 14mm sockets on the top and on the bottom. The nut and the bolt are 14mm. Those come off the same way with the A-arms, and you can't see this in the video, but just 14mm nuts, 14mm bolts. I like to use an impact, it just goes a lot quicker. You can pull them off pretty quick, and then just tap these out. Sometimes they get rusty, sometimes you gotta use maybe a little punch the center of the bolt, but you never want to damage the end of the bolt, otherwise you'll be replacing it. So that is the front end on a Honda Rancher 420. This is the FE model, but they're all going to be the same as long as it's 4-wheel drive. 2-wheel drive front ends are going to look a little different. Thanks for watching.